Today we're going to cover a really important manifestation topic that for some of you might clear up every manifestation misinterpretation you've ever had. Because so many of you are beating yourselves up, claiming that you are sabotaging your manifestations and you can't seem to get it together because you keep self-sabotaging your manifestations. And a lot of you are just not seeing what manifestation is clearly. It's like you're taking credit for something that you shouldn't actually be taking credit for, and it's actually that is what is causing the block to your manifestation. And I'll explain this more because I get what I just said might sound confusing. So before we get into it and break it all down for you so you get really clear on what is your responsibility as a conscious manifestor and what is not your responsibility as a conscious manifestor, before we get into all that, let me introduce myself. My name is Genevieve and I am your manifestation coach. I'm the kind of coach that really likes to break things down for you in a spiritual, psychological, understandable way that kind of takes you out of the parroted law of assumption things we often hear and instead gives you a healthier perspective on things that actually helps you to manifest faster and more effectively because you're understanding the mechanisms at a deeper level. So if you like my kind of coaching here on this channel, there are all kinds of ways that you can work with me. I've got courses down below. You can click on the link and do a course right now, or you can do private coaching with me, although I'm pretty booked out, so the calendar is probably going to close again because I think that at the time that I'm posting this video, I think the next available is like in September, so that might get shut down again just to give some space for things to catch up. But you can also join the membership portion of this channel. Like at the end of every month, I do a group coaching call. You can sign up for the platinum tier to do that. There's just all kinds of things that you can do at different levels, so just check that out. Okay, let's break all of this down. The very first healthy, responsible thing we need to do is we really need to define what is your responsibility as a manifestor. What are you consciously responsible for when you are manifesting someone or something? I'm starting with this because I see so many of you in the comments or in my private calls claiming that you are a bad manifestor because you're sabotaging your manifestation or whatever it is. It's like you're claiming that self-sabotaging thing is your identity when you don't even, you have to be honest, you don't even realize what it is you're even sabotaging. You're just assuming that you're self-sabotaging the manifestation, but you don't even know what are you really responsible for. So first, I'm gonna give you some of the most common misconceptions I hear from people about what they think they're doing that is their sabotaging behavior. The most common one is that people think that they are sabotaging their manifestation because they're not doing their affirmations every day, or they're not doing a technique consistently. And they think that that act of not doing is sabotaging the manifestation. And I'm sorry to laugh, but it's like so funny to me. I can't even explain it because it's not really about doing anything. Manifestation is not about doing. Manifestation is really about where is most of your energy flowing. And energy flows where your attention goes. And attention goes towards the things that you take seriously. So really, I'm already jumping ahead here, but what your responsibility is as a manifestor is what are you taking seriously in your mind? What thoughts are you genuinely taking seriously? And what thoughts are you owning? What feelings are you having that you're giving particular meanings to? What ideas about yourself are you taking seriously? How are you speaking to yourself on a daily basis? Are you speaking to yourself like, oh my God, I'm never gonna get what I want. I'm so bad at manifesting. Everyone else gets what they want. And are you saying stuff like that and you're really taking that dialogue seriously? Or are you saying stuff to yourself like, yeah, I could believe that everything's really working out for me. I can believe that even though my current reality might not look the way I want it to, I can still take seriously the idea that things are working out for me. Do you see the difference in energy in those two dialogues? So it's not about, oh, manifesting is that you do a technique every day. No, the only reason we practice consistently by doing techniques every day or by doing techniques often is because the technique is supposed to change you. It's supposed to rewire you. Like when you say an affirmation enough times, You are supposed to change and start thinking that affirmation more naturally. That affirmation is supposed to start to feel safe to you and normal to you and easier to accept to you. We're not saying affirmations or doing a technique over and over again because we're trying to change the outside world. And that's how a lot of people relate to manifestation. That's why you have wrongfully thought like, oh, the way you manifest is you do the technique every day. Because when you do the technique every day, then the 3D changes. It's like, no, that's not the right mindset to be thinking of the way that this goes. As a healthy manifester, I always want you to actually leave the 3D completely out of this. I know that some of you're probably already triggered. It's so funny. There's some people that discover my videos and they're initially a little bit triggered because I say things in such a different way, especially law of assumption things, in such a different way than they're used to. And it can almost seem like I'm saying, like when I tell you to completely forget about the 3D, like completely let it go, almost don't expect it to change at all. When I say stuff like that to you, your ego can think, oh, well then she's not even teaching manifestation because manifestation is all about the 3D. That's all this is I want my 3D to change. So if she's saying to let that go completely, then she must be wrong. But no, the reason I'm saying to completely let go of the 3D, keep the 3D totally out of this, that we're not doing anything to get something. We're not doing a technique to try to get a 3D change. I'm saying that because you are so much more dang likely to get the 3D to change, ironically, when you no longer want it or need it to change. So the more that you practice internally, like saying your affirmations or doing your techniques or whatever it is, the more you practice internally giving it to yourself in a very just like, okay, I've given it to myself. I feel safe with that affirmation. I feel normal about it. That's it. I don't even need to look for the change because the minute you go to the 3D to look like, okay, is it validating me? You've instantly invalidated the affirmation you just said because you said, actually, I don't really have it unless the 3D gives it to me. I hope that's making sense to you, that you are invalidating what you've already decided is true the minute you actually go, well, wait, maybe I don't have it. Let me look at the 3D and see, like, does the 3D say I have it? I hope that makes sense. So that's actually what I just said there. Another form of actual sabotage. Like if you are doing your affirmations, like say you're not the first example I gave. So remember the first example I gave was, oh, I'm always sabotaging my manifestation because I'm never able to stick to an affirmation or I'm never able to do techniques consistently. So let's say you're not that person, you're the next person. And let's say you do your affirmations every day and you're very diligent about repeating 100 times a day or always doing your visualizations or blah, 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 or whatever. The way you might be sabotaging is that you're doing the affirmations or the technique for the 3D and not for your energy. Because remember what I said, the main thing that really causes manifestations in this world is that you start to speak to yourself differently. You start to naturally just take on a different thought about yourself, about the situation you're trying to manifest. You just see it differently. You start to relate to it differently. You change internally and you start to think different thoughts about that situation. You start to take seriously different thought patterns about that situation. So in so many ways, that is your only freaking responsibility when it comes to manifesting. Your responsibility is not being perfect in your emotions, because that was the other thing I was going to bring up. The third thing that people think is sabotaging their manifestations is this thing of like, oh my gosh, I just can't feel it. I just can't feel it real. I'm just too anxious. I'm too sad. I'm too reactive. I'm just too upset about everything. And I just cannot like feel it real. I can't do that. And that's why I can't manifest. That's another really big one that they think is like sabotaging, but it's not actually sabotaging. It's only the idea itself that you are taking, like, just listen to what I just said. Taking seriously this idea, like, oh my God, I can't manifest because I can't feel it. That in and of itself is the only sabotage, that you're taking that idea seriously. You're relating to yourself as if, oh, I made this condition about myself that if I ever feel anxious, that always means, because in my reality, this is the rule, if I feel anxious, that always means I don't get what I want. And because I'm the operant power, I made up that rule, and that's the only sabotaging, that you're taking seriously that old rule. So this is why people who've watched me a lot before, I talk about all the time, your feelings really don't matter. It's what you do with the energy of your feelings that matters. So if you, again, have a rule that's like, oh, whenever I feel bad, that means things aren't working for me anymore. Or whenever I feel sad, that means that the other shoe's gonna drop and I really should pay attention to that because I'm so sure it's gonna happen. That thought that you attach to the feeling is the only sabotage, that you had that thought and then you took it seriously. But here's the other thing, your brain runs on like autopilot. Like it's used to like whatever it's used to thinking in the past, it will think again the minute it's confronted with that similar emotion or that similar circumstance or the similar stimuli. Your brain is just trained to automatically go back to whatever assumption it related to that feeling or the circumstance that probably triggered you in the past. So what I'm saying here is, it's okay if your initial reactive thought is, oh no, my SP's third party is still in the picture. That means that my manifestation's not working. It's okay if like your brain immediately tries to make that assumption, but it is your job. This is, again, your maybe only responsibility is to see that thought like from space, like be the observer, like step outside of yourself, see that you're doing that you've created a feedback loop between, oh, this stimuli caused me to think this thought, and then I take that thought very seriously and I just roll with it as if it's like, yep, this is real, just take it seriously, this is real. And I keep momentum going and I take it seriously as if it's real. Instead, you take a step out of yourself and you view yourself from the outside in. That's what the operant power does. That's part of the operant power we have, is that we can step outside of ourselves and see, okay, I'm not my thoughts and feelings. I have thoughts and feelings, but as the operant power, there's a part of me that exists like above and beyond my thoughts and feelings. And that's how I'm able to redirect them and change them, and therefore change my energy vibe or state of being, whatever lingo you want to use. So this is all to say, let go of claiming that, oh, because I can never feel the wish fulfilled. I always feel anxious, or I always feel triggered, and I'm just so emotionally dysregulated, I can't feel the wish fulfilled. You have to see what you're doing to yourself. You have decided in your own operant power, like, this is the rule I've made, I really like this rule, and that, again, in and of itself is the only sabotage. The minute you step outside of you in that role you've given yourself, you step outside of yourself and you say, oh, I see what I'm doing here. I've gotten really into this thing with myself where I like to do that to myself. I like to say that to myself and then take it seriously and then keep saying it to myself. So I'm reaffirming, yep, it's true. You're too anxious to manifest. It's never gonna work out for you. So I just don't need to do that. I could just practice just dropping that, like just not taking that seriously. And it really is as simple as that, like to step outside of you in that moment and be like, I just don't need to take this thought seriously. And the more you practice that over and over again, it gets a lot easier. It becomes more second nature to be the mindful observer of yourself as you're just going throughout your day, noticing how you habitually think and react to your internal stimuli, all these emotions and sensations in your body, and also notice how you react to external stimuli, all this stuff in the 3D. And it is your job, maybe again, your only responsibility as a manifester is to constantly hold yourself accountable for what you make everything mean about you. Because especially too, when we talk about self-concept, real self-concept means you are not a dick to yourself. You never give anything in this life a negative meaning about you. You don't ever say, oh, because my SP doesn't choose me or isn't choosing me, oh, that means I'm failing at manifesting, that means I'm a bad manifester, or that means I'm too ugly. That's also a very fascinating thing that humans do. We'll use like other conditions of our life that actually have nothing to do with each other, but we'll do this where we'll say, oh, well, my SP, they don't choose me because I'm still too fat, or it's like two things that actually don't have anything to do with, like, your body being a certain weight actually has fucking nothing to do with your SP choosing you or not. Like, if you more from like an observer scientific perspective see it, you can see that you've only made it logical because you've decided to make a weird link between that and you've kept reaffirming it to yourself over and over again. So I hope that you are really understanding that the only way you could sabotage your manifestation is, one, as I said, if you believe you are, because you're deciding, you and your operant power abilities, your operant power, amazing power, you've decided, nope, I don't want to have my manifestation. I want to sabotage it. So I'm going to claim, yep, I'm taking it very seriously that I am sabotaging my manifestation. So that's obviously one way. And technically the other way is that you just keep talking to yourself like a dick, and you keep, some people are even using the practice of manifestation as another way to beat themselves up, because again, you're probably making this all about 3D validation, where you're like, I gotta do all this stuff so I can get my stuff, and if I don't get my stuff, well, that just proves even more that I'm a failure. And it's like you are actually making your self-concept even lower, because you're still basing your lovability, your success, everything about you, your beauty, blah, blah, blah. You're basing all of it on what you think you see in the 3D. And that's what we have to completely let go. That's why I'm saying that we have to, like, in some ways, like, not even expect or look for the 3D to change. And again, I guarantee it freaking will change, but only after you've let go of this obsession with needing it to change. Because once you internally have decided, I don't even care about the 3D. I've already decided that I'm going to give myself the best perspective on my situation, or I'm going to give myself the faith in God that yes, I really can trust God, that everything really is working out for me. I'm going to give that to myself, accept my current circumstances, be non-resistant, because that's a huge, huge thing, but that's honestly another video, to be totally non-resistant, completely accepting of whatever your current circumstances are. You're no longer trying to fight them. You're no longer trying to control anybody, because that's also not even what we're here to do as manifestors. We're not here to control people, places, and things. We're here to change ourselves. That's why it's been beaten into your head a million times. There is no one to change but self. You are not trying to change 3D reality. It just so happens to be this observable byproduct. We've noticed that, whoa, we've noticed a pattern, us humans, we've noticed a pattern that when the human being changes their internal perception of things, whoa, this weird freaky thing that we even can't fully explain happens, where the 3D actually changes in their favor. And it's like, whoa, what's up with that? So, but you have to, if you're doing it for the 3D, you're not really doing it genuinely. You're not really changing yourself. You're still being obsessed with, I can't validate myself, and it's all about the outside, and it's all about these people and things that I want, and if I don't get them, I'm just going to suffer forever. Like, can you just hear the energy of that is not a changed, empowered energy. It's still a, I'm just so, unhappy without the things that I want. I can't live without the things that I want. And continuing to take that kind of a dialogue seriously is technically the only way that you can freaking sabotage this. It really is all about, just keep it so simple. How do I speak to myself? What kinds of things do I take seriously when it comes to the way I'm perceiving the world and perceiving myself in the world? And even though I do always encourage you and my clients to find some sort of a daily routine that you can stay consistent in, just because you don't always do the affirmations every day or the meditations every day, that again does not necessarily mean you're sabotaging it, because it's totally possible, as you've probably experienced, so many of you in your own lives have probably experienced this, where there totally have been things that you just assumed or thought or affirmed like maybe once or twice, and then you completely freaking forgot about it, and then it still manifested. So it's not about the amount of times you affirm, or it's not about doing your techniques hardcore every day. That is not sabotage. The only thing that is sabotage is if you start being a dick to yourself, and all that means is you start taking seriously mean voices in your head that say, you're a loser, you're sabotaging this, you're never gonna get what you want, just give up now, you might as well just stop trying. You hear voices like that, or any kind of variation of voices like that, and you listen to them. Like you hear that voice and you're like, oh my God, this is so right. Like I really am fucking this up. Like I really am never gonna, like that is the only way to sabotage a manifestation. Because I guarantee even with your big quote unquote manifestations, but again, those of you who have watched me, you know there's really no such thing as a big or small manifestation. It's just about your perception. But even with the things in your life that you perceive as like, oh, this is a really big manifestation, like, manifesting my dream SP or my dream job or getting into my dream college or whatever, that's a really, really big deal. Like even stuff like that, you can, again, your ego can wrongfully think, oh, we should put more effort into those big manifestations. But actually that's just your ego trying to fearfully control because it perceives something as big. And so it thinks, oh, this is so big, it needs more effort. No, it doesn't need more effort. Maybe it needs more focus, where you need to pay more attention to if you're being a dick to yourself about that outcome, but it doesn't necessarily need more effort with like more affirmations or more techniques and, oh no, you messed up because you're not doing all these affirmations and all these techniques. It's just about how do you speak to yourself about that relationship that you want? Do you feel genuinely accepting and open to the idea that you could easily have that relationship? And again, you're not looking for proof that you could easily have it. You are just internally being like, okay, I feel more relaxed that I could easily have that relationship. That is true progress as a manifestor. That's true signs of success. It's not the 3D changing that means success. Of course, that's great, and we all in our egos love success stories, but that's not really the success story. The success story is that you changed, and then the byproduct that, again, we've noticed as this observable thing in reality that, whoa, the byproduct of her changing was that, whoa, the whole situation changed. So this is all to say, even those big manifestations, you don't have to be constantly thinking about them in a positive way. You could honestly do your affirmations for a little bit and then drop it. And as long as you did not, again, start being a dick to yourself about it, telling yourself it's not going to happen, it's probably good. But here's also the thing that has been honestly a mystery to me. We have to be honest. There's a lot of mystery in the way manifestation happens that I don't think there's a single human alive on the planet that perfectly understands why does this happen sometimes when you're manifesting, but not this. And for example, like an observable thing that I found is like, why is it that I could be super non-resistant to like a kind of a small manifestation to me? Like, let's say I want to manifest, a call from an old friend or something, and I'm like super non-resistant. Like, how come I can assume that's happening, but I still might not hear from that friend for maybe a couple months? But then other things that are kind of ones I am resistant to, I think, I'll assume it, and I'll even think like, okay, well, I assumed it and I do feel better about it, but there's a part of me that still kind of doubts it. Like, I still will get the manifestation. So I'm just reminding you of that because there's so much grace in this process that even like a little bit of doubt is actually okay. I'm sure you've heard other people say this, because I've definitely heard other coaches, which I think is good. This thing of like, you don't have to be perfectly aligned in the new energy of belief in yourself. You just have to be dominantly going in that direction. So even if there's a little bit of doubt in you about XYZ, whatever your thing is that you're trying to manifest, as long as most of your energy isn't feeding into the insecurity and doubt, and most of it is feeding into, you know what, I actually could get on board with, like, yeah, that probably is going to happen. It's okay. You're not sabotaging it by having a tiny bit of lingering doubt. So the bottom line here is a lot of you are claiming, deciding that you're sabotaging your manifestation and you're really bad at self-sabotage, when actually you're not doing any self-sabotage except believing that you're sabotaging. Like, that's kind of the only sabotage that you do. You really take it seriously, this thought of, oh, I'm sabotaging. And I gave a lot of the common examples that are the reasons why people think they're sabotaging, like, oh, I'm not doing my techniques every day, or, oh, I don't feel anything, I feel really the opposite, I'm so reactive, I have so many feelings, or, oh, I do my techniques every day, but nothing's happening, I must be doing something wrong. Like, no, you're not. You just happen to be giving a lot of energy, a lot of belief power, or whatever you want to call it, to the idea that you're sabotaging or messing it up, but honestly, you're probably not. Another thing that I don't think I mentioned yet is that a lot of people think they're sabotaging their manifestation when really they're just being really fucking impatient because they're obsessed with the 3D still. So that's another example where you're not actually sabotaging it. You're just thinking, oh, I must be doing something wrong because I've been trying to manifest this for months and it still hasn't happened. So therefore I must have sabotaged it and I must be doing something. It's like, no, maybe not. Although actually someone who's really saying that, they probably have been thinking other thoughts that have been sabotaging it. Especially again, when your primary MO is to be continuously very obsessed with the 3D. And as I said, a good manifester, all we're really doing, we're completely no fucks given about the 3D now. We're not looking to it for validation. We're still staying in the present moment in the 3D. We're still being non-resistant to the current 3D. We're not judging the 3D or hating the 3D. We're staying very present with it, but we're not looking to it to affirm for us anymore. Before, we were really obsessed with that, where it's like, whatever's happening in my 3D reality, that's what defines me. We're not doing that anymore. Instead, we're saying nothing that's happening in the current 3D defines me. I define myself 100%. That's me reclaiming my power, stepping into that operant power seat, is I decide no matter what is happening at all times, what's really going on about me, what's really true about me, how I talk to myself, how I perceive myself, how I perceive opportunities for myself. That is what the good manifester does. And again, because you're so non-resistant to the 3D, that's when the 3D ironically tends to change faster, but it's because you're not needing it to change. Like, really embrace that paradox. The more you need it to change because you're still obsessed with it affirming for you, it could stall. It could be a little bit of a sabotaging because you're not really perceiving the whole nature of this work correctly. Because the nature of this work is that we are changing ourselves. We are not in the business of controlling anyone in the 3D. We're not in the business of changing anything in the 3D. It's, again, we're just accepting this interesting thing that happens that, like, oh, I'm going to totally focus on changing myself. And I am aware that when I change myself, probably the 3D is going to change to match it eventually. But I don't really care about that because I'm staying so healthfully self-focused on showing up for me in such an empowered way about everything I want. And I never talk to myself like a dick. That's really the only thing you got to do. And if you just do that, you won't be sabotaging anything. And you're not, of course, like I said, you're not taking that thought seriously at all, that you could sabotage it. That thought won't even cross your mind anymore once you stop being so obsessed with 3D results, and you also stop being so hard on yourself. Like, this whole manifesting thing is some game where you gotta prove stuff, because you gotta be like, I gotta get my manifestation, so I gotta prove that I can put in the hard work and do it. Like, that's not how manifesting works. Manifesting is not an effort game. It is a what energy are you stepping into game. And that's actually very easy. It really is as simple as redirecting your thought power. And eventually your feelings will catch up to the direction your thoughts keep going, because a new feedback loop eventually starts, but that's also a whole nother video. So don't even worry about your feelings. Just stay focused on what the frick are you thinking. Can't believe I just said frick. I was trying to censor myself a little bit, keep this a little more PG, even though I've already said fuck once. Okay, I know this cleared up a lot of confusion for you. I want you to feel so empowered. You really are doing this. You are the only one who could decide that you're not doing it. And that is, again, the only sabotage, is the minute you really take seriously the idea that it's not working for you or that you're doing it wrong. When you take that idea seriously, that in and of itself is the only form of sabotage. So that's so freaking important, and I want you to see how empowering that is. That, oh my God, actually the only sabotaging I'm doing is taking seriously the thought that I sabotage. And all I have to do to free myself is just see that thought if it comes up, because it habitually might come up. See it and just be like, okay, I'm not even engaged with that. I'm just neutral to it. So please let me know your thoughts, your questions, and all that good stuff in the comments below. This video topic came from a comment I got on my last video, so it is really helpful when you guys ask your questions. If I think it's a good question that's like, well, a lot of people do need to hear the answer to this, then I will obviously try to make a video about it. So please let me know what's coming to mind for you. And as I said at the beginning of the video, there's all kinds of other things in the description, links to do stuff with me if you want to go deeper in this stuff. And that is all I have for you today. I will see you guys in my next video. All right, bye.